I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about your goals and what strategies that you have in place to meet your goals at the moment.
Yeah, perfect. I love that you ask about the strategies because at the moment I am really intently focused on trying to create systems and focus on those systems rather than goals, only because I feel like once I'm focused on the systems, it's easier to get momentum and I don't get so overwhelmed by the magnitude of the goals. In saying that, having goals is certainly important. So I do have the goal to be completely financially independent by 30. So that's 4 years from now. So I had that goal, when I turned 25. And so I'm like 1 year into that journey. So that's my main big goal. And then I have a few systems set up around that. So the first big one is to live frugally. And you hear that so much in the personal finance space. And I think it kind of scares people off, personal finance, but it's actually something that you can learn how to do whilst loving your life and still having indulgent moments in your life as well. I mean, I think that that's something that's easier to do when you have a good budget in place. And again, a budget is another word that scares people off and it makes them panic. But what we found with our budget is that it actually gives us freedom and permission to spend. So we're not so worried about, being really tight with our money. It actually just gives us a little bit of intentionality. And, we can go and spend money because we know that we're still putting money aside into our savings and investing.
It's good that you say that because I find that every dollar you earn needs to have a purpose. So that's one of the principles I've read and I've seen a lot of lately is give every dollar a job, make all your funds purposeful. And it's good that you've taken up that principle as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that helps so much just with your mental health around money, as well as just feeling comfortable with where you're at and not burning out. And I guess that kind of leads me into the second strategy that we implement is keeping the dream at the forefront of our mind every single day. So making sure that we're meditating on that dream and we're constantly reminding ourselves of it so that we can push through when things get a little bit tough, like when we're feeling a bit tired. Saving money can be a bit tiring. And so, you just kind of have to keep pushing through with that every day, and keeping that dream alive is definitely one way of doing that.
Yeah, awesome. It's good that you've got purpose, I guess. So that's great. You talked a little bit about having goals and a reason why, and then having a little bit of behavior behind it. What sort of mindset or behaviors do you think makes a good investor?
Yeah, great question again, because money is 80% behavior, 20% head knowledge. It really is true. Money is so behavioral and so psychological. I literally just read just before we jumped on the interview that your money habits are set by the time you're age 7. And so it's all about habitual behavior. And I think it's so important to understand your own psychological triggers and to know how to balance your emotions. And I think particularly in my life, I've really mastered the art of disassociating from my money. So once it's been given a job, once it's been given a purpose, it's not mine anymore. It belongs to that purpose. And I think that really helps because I never get tempted to withdraw it from investments or savings accounts.
Yeah, awesome. Well, it's an interesting sort of statistic around, all your money habits are learned by age 7. I think, it just goes to show how important those conversations are as parents, being your first sort of money role models that you have on your children as well.
Yes, 100%. And talking about finance as well, making sure it's something that you talk about within the home and make it less of a taboo and a scary topic, something that can be fun and can be enjoyable.
Yeah, no, definitely. I definitely don't think that talking about finances should be taboo. If anything, it should be something that's discussed regularly with your children. So no, I definitely agree with you there.
Yeah, for sure. Do you have any particular mindsets or behaviors that you think you've really got down pat with your money?
Something I like to think that I'm good at is one of the behaviors that I have in place is I pay myself first. So as soon as I'm paid, it gets invested. Then I always look for ways to save as well. So I sort of think, okay, I've got this money left, but I'm not going to spend it all. I allocate sort of like spend money, which is X amount, X percentage of my wage. Then I have, again, I give my money a purpose. So, okay, this is for spend, this is for groceries, this is for investing. And then within that, I as well look to live frugally. So I sort of understand, okay, when the bill comes, I don't accept it at face value. So when the insurance bill comes or when any bill comes, I sort of challenge it and say, well, do I really have to pay that amount? Can I get away with paying something? And then I look to, if I can, whatever I've got left over at the end of that pay cycle, I invest that as well. So like not only do I invest at the start of the pay cycle, but at the end of the pay cycle if I have anything left over. So
amazing. So it becomes like a full circle, which is so good. I love that you said you negotiate. Firstly, that you said that you negotiate everything. Like everything is up for negotiation, and that's such a good way to look at it. Like don't just ever accept that a price is like that's set. And that's something that I'm learning more. I think I used to be a little bit afraid of negotiation, but it's definitely a skill. The other thing that you said is pay yourself first. And I think that is such a great message, but also one that needs to be like kind of explained, because I think people who are entering the personal finance space often hear that and think, okay, so, instead of paying off my debt, I'm going to invest or I'm going to save my money. And there are certain points where it's important that like paying off your debt actually is a form of paying yourself first, because you're paying your future self first, and making sure that you're set up. So what do you think about that? I guess like paying off debt and a balance of, throwing in there.
Yeah, look, it depends on the debt type. So it needs to be an efficient debt or a debt that's working for you. So I might quote Robert Kiyosaki, there's good debt and bad debt. So there's, I don't know if you've ever read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. If not, I highly recommend it. But he talks about if the debt you can leverage it in order to derive an income from it, then it's not actually a liability. That debt is actually an asset because you're producing income from that debt. So a good example is an investment property. So a lot of people think that the only way to make money out of property, or one of the few ways to make money out of property, is via capital growth. You buy a house, you negative gear with the hope or speculation that it goes up in value, and then you borrow against it to buy another one. But that's not true. There's actually a lot of opportunities out there where you can positively gear, if not positively cash flow for properties as well. So there's places around the country, there's property around the country where you can get such a great rental return that you don't have to, you actually get positive cash flow even though I'm paying principal and interest. So that's just some of the examples of how you can sort of leverage debt. If people do have non-deductible, I'm very discouraged against holding non-deductible debt. So credit cards, personal loan, car loans, that sort of stuff. That is a liability. And if anything, that's a burden that's on your back. So I encourage people to get rid of that sort of debt as much as possible, because you're not producing an income. It's actually detracting from your assets. It's taking away from your asset pool. So yeah, I'm not a fan of that sort of debt. I don't have any credit cards personal. I never had a personal loan. I had a credit card once upon a time, but as soon as the lender told me that it actually reduced my borrowing capacity just by having the debt, even though I was never in debt on the credit card, I got rid of it straight away. So yeah.
I completely agree with that approach on like good debt, bad debt, and man, that book was a game changer for me. Loved it.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. Yeah, glad you liked it. No, well done.
Yeah.
Speaking, we talked a little bit about guidance and behaviors and that sort of stuff. What sort of guidance or information would you give to a first-time investor? I know we talked about, providing a role model guidance to children, but what would you give to first-time investors in terms of information or guidance?
Also love this question because I think there's like about 5 main things that I would tell a first-time investor. And I think the most important thing that you can ever do is build up your financial literacy. And like, that doesn't mean you have to know everything before you get started. It's just to start learning about it and to continually learn about it, and to never invest in something that you don't understand. So making sure that you fully understand what you're investing in and at least understanding if you're investing in the stock market or property, understand how they work. That is definitely a very important first step. The second one is to make sure that you have your budget sorted out before you start trying to invest, because there's no point investing money that then in a year or so you actually ended up needing that money and you need to withdraw it, or you have to go into debt because you don't have that money. So that's the second one. The third one would be to get started as soon as you can. And I think a lot of people they often jump to that. So they think, oh, I have to start investing, I've got to do it now, but they kind of skip those first two steps. But obviously, like, the magic of compound interest only gets better over time. So the longer you can have your money in there, the better. The fourth one would be to try and make things as easy on yourself as possible as a beginner. Well, I guess like at any stage of your money journey. If you can reduce the friction, then you're going to be more successful. So doing things to like avoid analysis paralysis by, picking one thing that you're going to try and research and invest in that. So maybe that's an ETF, like a diversified ETF or index fund, and just start investing in that, and then start to learn about diversifying your portfolio. So picking one thing and then progressing from there. And then the fifth thing is invest for the long term, because the market fluctuates in the short term, but it generally trends upwards in the long term.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. A lot of those more volatile assets, you'll see that even though they dip up and down in the shorter term, but they have fairly consistent gains when you look at them over the long term. It's funny when you look at the graphs especially if you look at something like the ASX 200, it'll go up and down, like especially over the last sort of 18 to 24 months. But if you expand that graph to look over the last 20 years, you'll see a fairly consistent line that goes up roughly 8%. So you sort of think, well, wow, 8% a year, but it's an average like indication. It's not a rule sort of thing.
Exactly right. And the other good thing about having longevity in your investments is that if there is a dip or a crash, you have buffer time to allow for recovery. That's
the sequencing timing the sequencing risk rather, that a lot of retirees actually face as they start to approach retirement, or just anybody, as you start to approach your goal, there's a risk that the market will dip right before you need the money, sort of thing. So that's like in those cases, a sequencing risk, you sort of got to think, okay, I'm starting to approach my goal 24 months, 18 months out. I need to start looking at maybe more conservative investments in the case that it does dip, because your actual time frame to withdraw or to invest rather is a lot shorter, because you do invest for the long term, but as you start to approach your goal, the term becomes shorter and shorter, and then you need to invest more conservatively. So that's very important. But one of the things I actually find as well is I talk to a lot of my friends and that sort of stuff about investing, and they, like you mentioned, they get analysis paralysis. And what I find actually combats that is identify 3 to 5 key measures or metrics that indicates that is a good investment. And don't look at the other metrics. Just look at those 3 to 5 key metrics, because you're always going to be pessimistic and find that, oh no, this isn't a good investment because of this reason, or I heard something about this on the news. If those 3 to 5 metrics sort of say, yep, that's a great investment, then go for it, buy it. Like they're your true indicators, they're your true benchmarks. The other thing was, a lot of people, I find as well, the reason why they don't invest is because they think, oh, it's too volatile, I could lose all my money. But then they go and buy the latest iPhone, they go buy a new car, they go buy a boat or whatever. And those assets actually depreciate instantly. If you think about a car, it actually depreciates on average 30% as soon as it comes off the showroom floor. So if you think about an investment where you lose 30% instantly, then I would cry over that. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. You mentioned something that made me think back to the previous question, that something that I forgot to add is, especially for people in Australia, is looking at your superannuation and trying to maximize that, maybe even doing that first before looking at investing outside, because of the amazing tax benefits that you have. And as a young person, making sure that you're invested in not just the like custom portfolio that they automatically put you in, it's normally like a balanced portfolio, but trying to invest a little bit more aggressively, because those balanced portfolios are designed to cater for people of all ages, people who might be retiring soon. But as a young person, you're not anywhere near being able to access your superannuation. So making sure that you choose the right portfolio, because I think everyone remembers to, well, not everyone. If you're aware of your superannuation, you consolidate, but often you forget to actually pick which portfolio you're in.
Yeah, some people simply inherit their corporate super plan or their employer super plan, and a lot of times that'll just be invested in the default, like you said, the balance, which is like the middle of the road. But for the younger generation, those people in their 20s and 30s, the reality is they've got 30 or 40 years before they can access that money. So I know personally my superannuation's invested in something stupidly aggressive. Like I honestly don't care what happens to it at the moment. So yeah, so that's a very good point. That's great. That almost brings me to the next question, if it's all right. If there was one thing that you could teach all Australians about their finance, what would it be? So we mentioned a little bit about, look at your superannuation, but is there anything else that you'd like to teach every Australian in one sort of snap?
Yeah, for sure. It's that you're not bad with money.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that too many people believe that about themselves.
Yeah.
Like I said, like we talked about, personal finance is hugely emotional. Mm-hmm. And if we believe that we're not good with money, then we will live that out. Mm-hmm. But you know what they say in the world of investing, like past performance is not an indicator of future performance. And I think that this really applies to us as individuals. Just because, maybe we've made bad choices in the past, or we haven't known enough in the past, that's all a learning experience. And so we can always take that, learn from it, and then make better choices moving forward.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. I think there's a stigma as well, that investing is only for the rich, or if you're not competent enough, you don't know how to invest. That's it. You didn't learn about it at school. You'll never be able to invest. And I just sort of think that there's so many options to become financially literate and financially competent nowadays. There's so much free content and that sort of stuff that you can just sort of reach out and grab it. And the opportunities to invest as well are endless. There's micro investing apps where you can literally invest in cents worth of. You can round up your coffee or your grocery bills, or even you can buy cryptocurrency using spare change nowadays. So it's so easy to invest as well. So there's a lot of just sort of mindset and behaviors that we mentioned before that people need to get over, I feel.
Yeah, for sure. That's a really good one. That investing, you don't have to be like a genius to invest. Yeah. That's a great one.
Yeah, excellent. Well, look, Majella, that's all the serious questions I had for you. What I've got a set of sort of fun 5 questions, if you're happy to answer, just to sort of, have a bit of fun, get to know you a little bit better. Are you happy to answer?
Yeah, awesome. Great.
Yeah,
cool. Let's go.
So the first one I've got for you, if you could have any superpower, what power would you have and why?
Definitely a shapeshifter, because then I could have all the superpowers.
Okay. That's pretty cool, yeah. No, sounds good. Next question is, if you had to be shipwrecked on a desert island, but all your human needs, such as food and water, were taken care of, what 2 items would you have with you? Sort of luxury items, I guess.
Cool. I would have a journal and something to play music out of, like whether that's a radio or a CD player or whatever I'm allowed.
Is that something you can't do without? You need to have music with you?
Yeah, I have music playing all the time.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. Well done. Next one I've got for you is, what was the last gift that you gave somebody?
So it was for my mum. It was her birthday last week. And I have a friend who has a store where she hand makes pottery items, and they're beautiful and they're all one of a kind, obviously, because they're handmade. And so I sent my mum a handmade vase from her.
Beautiful.
So for people watching from my YouTube, I'll put the link to her store in the description.
Awesome. Very thoughtful. Well done. That's nice. Next question I've got for you. If you could be any animal, which would it be and why?
I think I've nailed it. I would definitely be a phoenix.
Okay,
The
yeah.
fact that they, you know, come back from the ashes, they're loyal, they're fighters, and they have healing powers. So
Very majestic as well, very beautiful. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
And then last one I've got for you is, if you could only ever watch one movie for the rest of your life, which would it be and why? I think this would be a tough one for me.
Yes, so hard. But there is one movie that I will never, ever tire of, and that is The Incredibles.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I just think it is absolutely hilarious. The jokes are so good, and yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I've got to say, like, I've got young children as well, but a lot of the cartoons I actually enjoy as well. I think they cater for all ages. Like some of the jokes, I just think that they're not like adulty jokes, but they just humor that everybody can relate to. So I think it's hilarious.
Yeah. Do you have a movie that you would be able to?
This is why this is such a hard question for me. I'm a bit of a movie buff. I like a lot of the retro movies. Yeah, it's too hard for me. The Untouchables, The Godfather,
Yeah.
The Hurricane. Yeah, no, too many. I couldn't do it. I'm sorry. I couldn't.
I have a confession. I have a confession. I've never seen The Godfather.
Oh,
so,
really? Please.
It's on my list.
I think I watched The Godfather so much that my DVD player broke and I couldn't get it out. So I just watched it. I just kept watching it. Yeah.
Amazing.
Look, that's all the questions I got for you, Majella. It's been a pleasure chatting with you. Thanks for taking the time out to speak with me. If anybody does want to get in touch with you, how is the best way for them to do that?
So probably by my Instagram. My DMs are always open. I always say, like, there's no question too silly to be asked. So it's Money by Majella. And yeah, that's it. Probably by Instagram is the best. And otherwise, I have a YouTube channel as well.
Yeah, awesome. Very good. I'll make sure that everybody knows where to find you, so that'll be great. Thanks again for your time. Have a great night, and I'll hope to speak to you soon.
Great. Thank you so much, and thanks for having me. It's been so great talking with you.